And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day, another great week in this greatest nation on God's green earth. It is the week when we can observe the conclusion of what has been hailed as the greatest achievement in all of mankind's history. Who hailed that? The people behind the World Cup. And the FIFA World Cup, which was won by Spain. The award ceremony had a very prominent role for Donald Trump, so he's happy. But there may not be a lot of celebration over the breaking news that Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis, a radical terrorist group assigned and aligned with Iran, said today that they were imposing a new naval blockade all their own, blockading Saudi Arabia, a move that threatens to escalate the conflict in the region and disrupt global energy supply and trade way beyond the Gulf. The Houthis armed forces, in a statement, said they were declaring a maritime embargo against the criminal Saudi enemy based on the equation of an eye for an eye, effective immediately. Okay, this is not good news. There is also a AP report, deadline United Arab Emirates, and the United States conducted a new round of airstrikes early today, targeting Iran after announcing the death of another American service member. And Iran fired missiles toward Jordan that risked widening the conflict into neighboring Israel. The reason that's such a profound risk is Jordan really is the only Arab nation that has made peace with Israel, where not only is there a treaty, but there's actual functioning cooperation. And the Jordanians have been staunch allies of the United States. And to be facing a bombardment by the Iranians is appalling and very frightening. And yes, it is a profound danger for the United States and for our other allies, including Israel. Step by step, the AP reports the U.S. and Iran have inched closer to all-out war. The interim deal was meant to permanently end the fighting, but it has crumbled, and shipping traffic in the Strait of Hormuz has largely stalled. Both sides have targeted civilian infrastructure relied on by millions of people, while benchmark Brent crude rose today above $90 a barrel, further fueling a global energy crisis sparked by the conflict. Meanwhile, there's also bad news on the Ukraine front. The Russian ballistic missiles struck Kyiv and other sites across Ukraine early yesterday morning in one of the largest barrages since the start of the war, and the third major attack on the Ukrainian capital in the past 35 days. Russia fired at least 41 missiles and 125 drones at targets across the country, with the Ukrainian Air Force stating its defenses intercepted or jammed 18 of the missiles and 108 of the drones. But the amazing thing is, do you know how expensive all this is? How much it costs in terms of resources that could be used for rebuilding, and not just the cost of launching drones and missiles, but the cost of trying to shoot them down and to protect your population. One of the missiles that got through struck an amusement park in the Odessa region, killing a 16-year-old boy and injuring 12 others. Meanwhile, Ukraine hit 2 warehouses that belong to one of Russia's largest online retailers, which Zelensky said had been used to supply sanctioned components for drone production and navigation equipment. Ukrainian forces also attacked facilities in occupied Crimea and ships in both the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its air defenses shot down 379 Ukrainian drones across the territory that Russia controls. Amazing and appalling. We will get the latest on the wars in Iran and in Ukraine, speaking with Mona Charen, who's written a terrific column about the big triumphal arch that President Trump is meaning to put up in Washington, 250 feet tall, bigger than the Arch of Triumph in France. The question about it is, okay, what is the triumph exactly that President Trump is hoping to commemorate with this arch? Is it a triumph in Ukraine? Is it a triumph in Iran? What is the subject to be commemorated? We will be getting to that with columnist Mona Charen coming up on the Medved Show. There is also this on the home front. The Washington Post is reporting Republicans don't want to go there again on Trump's 2020 election fraud claims. The president pressed the GOP to embrace his latest allegations, but many candidates, says the Washington Post, kept their focus on issues they see as more salient to voters. Like affordability is one major example. Trump had privately floated the idea of delivering a televised address to detail claims of foreign interference and purported election fraud. Shocking, in quotes, new discoveries, he'd go on to say, that had been covered up by the so-called deep state and should be a central focus of elected officials. Advisors initially steered him away from the idea for a primetime address, but it was quickly resurrected. Some things don't deserve another thought or another life. Dozens of cabinet members and close aides gathered to watch his speech in the East Room. And we will also take a look at President Trump's latest attack on Canada. He said, I told them, I mean, you got to stop these fires from coming in and, poisoning our air. Our air has been poisoned. Maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs. Is that a good idea for dealing with the wildfires that have indeed been creating havoc for tens of millions of Americans, particularly who live in the Midwest? We will get to that crisis and the greatest human achievement of all time. Yes, that's right. It has to do with soccer. Coming up on the Medved Show.
Listeners love Michael Medved.
I listen to you occasionally when I'm driving. It turns my stomach every time I do.
Lately, you've been sounding like a raving lunatic. You upset me so much. You never tell the truth.
I truly believe you're delusional.
You don't have a clue.
They're wrong again. What's going on in your head?
You are no good for the country.
People like you who are a monster. Have you no shame?
The Michael Medved Show. The Michael Medved Show.
Listen.
Nationwide.
Listen.
And around the world at michaelmedved.com.
And listen.
And President Trump landing at Joint Base Andrews, the Air Force Base, was speaking to reporters and saying that he wants Canada to stop poisoning the American air. This is part of the completely misguided and utterly useless and destructive hostility between the U.S. and Canada, our closest neighbor and really our closest ally, for a couple hundred years. And, so what did President Trump say exactly about the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and the Canadians to our north? This is President Trump, clip 25.
I told him, you got to stop these fires from coming in and, poisoning our air. Our air has been poisoned. I have a good relationship with Mark Carney, but, we got to stop the fires up there. If we can help them, we'll help them. But maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs. But it was terrible. You had businesses closing. In particular, Michigan, if you look at the Detroit, Michigan area, they had to close everything. They had to close car plants and a lot of other things. So I've never remembered this happening. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you saw it starting to take place. I've never remembered it happening.
Okay, there obviously have been terrible wildfires, and many of them in American territory, not just in Canada. But the idea that this is specifically some kind of Canadian conspiracy for which they need to be punished, I don't think that works. And there was also this about another nation that President Trump sees in a dark light, which is Spain, which just won the World Cup. President Donald Trump, it reports in Politico accurately, has spent much of his second term in office berating Spain over a couple of things. Number one, its anemic military spending and its refusal to allow American forces to use Spanish bases for bombing missions in Iran. Earlier this month, Trump branded the country hopeless, derided the Spanish as bad people, and briefly threatened to cut off all trade in goods with Madrid. Today, the president, who in March dubbed the country a loser, had to celebrate Spain as the winner of a World Cup that Trump worked to make his own. He handed the sports world's greatest prize to Captain Rodri in front of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, King Felipe VI of Spain, and a global television audience of more than 1 billion. And that size of the of the television audience might explain one of the reasons that there was so much enthusiasm on the part of obviously the people who were involved with the World Cup and with the world of soccer. For instance, Infantino, who is the chief of the FIFA, which sponsored the whole thing, he said this has not just been and is not just the greatest World Cup of all time. Okay, it's the greatest World Cup of all time. But then he went on Friday and he said this at a Trump Tower reception with Trump. He said, it is not only the greatest World Cup of all time, he said, it is the greatest human, social, and cultural event that mankind has ever witnessed and seen. And we are all part of it. And for this, I thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, meaning, of course, Donald J. Trump. And Trump loomed over the World Cup, as they say in an article in the Washington Post. Deadline, East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's where the final match between Spain and Argentina occurred. President Donald Trump's World Cup ended with something he likely loved, being showered in gold. Trump appeared to shake off FIFA President Gianni Infantino as he lingered on stage after presenting Spain their second World Cup trophy ever. Trump stood next to the team as they lifted the trophy, and cannons of gold confetti shot in the air. Infantino ushered Trump further from the team as they celebrated. They were jumping up and down a great deal and putting the FIFA head and the president directly in the path of the flittering confetti. Trump was loudly booed as he entered the field after the match, waving to people as he made his way to the stage. He received a more mixed response when he was briefly shown on the big screen in the stadium after the national anthem. The reflective glass of his box made it difficult to see the president on screen. What a shame. Trump had long viewed the tournament as one of the signature events of his term, a chance to showcase his version of the United States to the world in the middle of a summer that also included America's 250th anniversary celebrations. Throughout the game, Fox aired commercials promoting the upcoming Freedom 250 Grand Prix, an auto race around national monuments that the White House is promoting. The hosting of the World Cup was awarded to the U.S., Canada, and Mexico during Trump's first term. It arrived 8 years later as the largest version of the tournament ever staged, a 48-team, 104-match spectacle stretching nearly 6 weeks and carrying a global audience measured in the billions. It turns out we are a soccer society, Trump said in an interview ahead of the game with Fox. We're a football country. We don't want to get it confused, but I don't think there's anything like what's happened with the World Cup. Trump appeared to enjoy interacting with the players as he presented them each with medals. He patted them and spoke with them, and with the players often reciprocating. The World Cup was also a family affair for the Trumps. Melania Trump was seated next to him in the box, and his extended family, including Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, Eric and Lara Trump, and Tiffany Trump, and Michael Boulos, were all in the box together in the stadium. So what would Trump commemorate with his triumphal arch? We will get to that and more coming up on The Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show in East Rutherford, New Jersey, President Trump got the chance to hand the World Cup trophy to the Spanish team, but they weren't so anxious to have him hang around. And there was a great deal of commentary about President Trump staying up there on the podium and the discomfort of some of the Spanish team. Now, part of the discomfort is because these people aren't idiots, and they are aware of what the President of the United States has been saying about them, saying that Spain was a loser country and that the Spanish people should not have any sort of commerce with the United States because he didn't believe they were spending enough on their own defense, and because he didn't make available Spanish air bases during some of the attacks on Iran. Okay, and the idea that with the photograph, the formal photograph of the Spaniards jumping up and down with great delight and joy and success, and obviously, if you're winning something like this, it's like winning, obviously, even more so, the Super Bowl, because it's more international. And, okay, your whole life you'll remember this moment. The Spaniards decided they didn't want Trump to be part of that, and they cut him out of the photograph showing their victory. Too bad Trump still gets some of the reflected glory. And the the idea that President Trump is celebrating himself and with new reasons for it, the idea of actually reinvigorating, resurrecting the election of 2020, which, come on, it's 6 years ago. He lost the election, but he simply can't live with that reality. And there's actually a very amusing column about this by Maureen Dowd, reacting to the president's big speech on Thursday night, which is probably not going to be remembered for the full rest of this week. But Maureen Dowd says, ordinarily I love stories of obsession, Wuthering Heights, the story of Adele H., Remembrance of Things Past, The Caine Mutiny, Fatal Attraction, The Good Wife, Moby Dick, and the new Gen Z horror hit, Obsession. My Netflix algorithm is trained to compulsively hunt for tales of compulsion. But President Donald Trump has reduced the grandeur of obsession to something pathetic. When you commandeer prime time, or try to, you'd better have something prime to say. Trump didn't. His speech last Thursday was a dud, a batty stew of whiny complaints stemming from an election that he claims was stolen that wasn't, during a period when he was the one running the country. If something went wrong, dude, why didn't you fix it? He still has no proof, and he muddled matters by releasing documents containing information already known and warning about vulnerabilities his administration has made worse. And if the president believes what he is saying about China being a huge danger to our elections, why hasn't he retaliated against Xi Jinping, the man he warmly calls a friend and a great leader? Trump seemed very low T in his East Room address. I'm surprised that Pete Hegseth, who says high T Department of War, will start screening testosterone levels of war fighters age 30 and older. I'm surprised he didn't rush over to shoot up the flaccid 80-year-old commander-in-chief with the elixir of manhood needed, as Hegseth put it, to give America the leading edge of lethality. He is willing to undermine and destroy any institution, law, norm, or ideal cherished by Americans in a bonfire of his vanities. He claims to be Christian, but mocks the sanctity of human life with his cavalier attitude about ICE murders. He puts his own ego above everything else, even democracy. But Tom Homan, his director of the immigration crackdown, has a different take on President Trump and his greatness. And here is Tom Homan on Fox News, clip 8.
For those who question President Trump, again, I say it all the time because I believe it, greatest president of my lifetime, and the data proves it. You can hate him all you want, but you can't argue with his success. I mean, I worked for 6 presidents starting around Ronald Reagan. I respected every president I worked for because they were the president. I disagreed with a lot of them, but no one's done it better than Trump. It's unprecedented success. Promises made, promises kept. If you want the next president to be perfect man, you better wait for the second coming of Jesus. I never met a perfect man in my life. I think President Trump is keeping his promises. I think we've been when it comes to immigration enforcement, border security, it's unprecedented success. I think it's going to get better now that we have a budget. We get those additional agents on the line. We continue the strategy that the president's pushing down. I see nothing but success in the future.
Nothing but success in the future. The idea that this is all based upon data, when you look at the concerns about inflation or the way that people feel about their own situation, their own position to get work, to be paid well for the work, and their own economic future. The percentage of Americans who believe that their economic status has improved because of Trump's presidency this time in his second term, after the first year and a half of his second term, the percentage of people who think that their personal welfare has improved is below a third. People don't believe that. There's one poll, a Gallup poll, I believe it was, it showed 14% believe that their situation has improved. So not a tremendous level of agreement with Tom Homan on the president's greatness. There is also this from General Barry McCaffrey, four-star general, who's been a frequent guest on this show. He's a great American hero, actually. He put on X today, Mr. Trump has gotten the U.S. into a quagmire. Of course, the last time that phrase quagmire was used, it referred to the Vietnam War, great tragedy for the United States. General McCaffrey says there is no way to open the Strait of Hormuz without a major intervention with U.S. ground forces. It would be a significant combat operation to take down the 200,000 men in the IRGC, 600,000 in their army. Doable? Casualties. A year is what he says it would take, with heavy casualties. We will be right back on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, he is not the only one, General Barry McCaffrey, who says that we are in trouble in the Strait of Hormuz. Why? Because it would be so difficult to open the Strait of Hormuz. Now, especially with the Houthis saying they will also contribute to blockading it on behalf of their Iranian partners and patrons. That's a grim situation. And as General McCaffrey says, it would be a significant combat operation to take down the 200,000 personnel in the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And doable, but casualties and a full year of suffering. And the kind of suffering that we hear about with the latest killed in action for the United States hit in Jordan, with the attacks on Jordan, our most significant Arab ally and most dependable Arab ally, frankly, in the Middle East. Marco Rubio was getting off the plane at Joint Base Andrews, and as Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor, he travels a great deal, and that's appropriate. And what he expressed getting off the plane is, yes, we're open to diplomacy, but here is Secretary of State Rubio, clip 24.
We're always open to diplomacy. It has to be real. It has to be a deal that they're willing to live by. Look, Iran a week ago was supposed to put out a statement saying that the Strait of Hormuz would be open, that they would no longer attack shipping. And instead of doing that, they attacked 3 ships. We dealt with last Friday or Saturday. So, I mean, their behavior has to change in order for ours to change.
Okay, and for ours to change, I believe it is 9 days and nights in a row that we have run bombing raids on Iran. It's not good for Iran. President Trump says we've done serious damage. We clearly have, but we have not taken out or removed or eliminated their ability to hit back at us. And a former retired general, another retired general, not Barry McCaffrey this time, but a Fox News analyst, a retired General Jack Keane, says the U.S. has no choice but to return to major combat operations. This is clip 21.
There's some anonymous reporting in the Washington Post today about our munitions and our capabilities, which, of course, I'm sure the Ayatollah in some way is figuring into his calculations.
Yes, I can't speak to the specifics of it because I don't know. It's not that I'm not revealing. But what I have been told is that in the time that, obviously, there's 90 days we've been conducting a diplomatic effort, that we've come to full magazine depth again, and the Israelis are at full magazine depth as well. That is what I know. So I think we've got to ask the administration about it. I'm confident we can execute the mission the president has given us in front of us. And the reason why I say that is because we're fully prepared to go back to major combat operations, which would be 2 weeks with a different set of targets than what we're pursuing right now, along with the Israelis. And if we're prepared to do that, where the targets are considerably more exhaustive than what we're dealing with the Straits of Hormuz, I think we're in good shape.
Let us hope that he is right about that. But with all of that going on, there is also this note for the expectation of an intensification of U.S. attacks from CEO Mark Dubowitz of the Defense of Democracies. He was also on Fox News. And here is what he said that defenders of democracy should be looking for from the Trump administration. This is clip 20.
I think in the Middle East, proportionate response is an invitation to further escalation by your enemies. I think our Israeli allies have demonstrated over the years that the only way to counter these radical Islamists is to hit them harder and sharper than they hit us. I'm looking for President Trump to use American power to open up Hormuz and allow Admiral Cooper, who's the head of CENTCOM, to fight and win the Battle of Hormuz. And I'm also looking for President Trump to start hitting key infrastructure inside Iran, the kind of infrastructure that sustains the regime, to really squeeze them economically, to maintain this blockade, and to deprive them of the revenue that they need to run their economy and to continue their external aggression and their internal repression.
Okay, this is important, and these are important priorities. And it's one of the reasons that I believe there are so many Republicans who are growing increasingly frustrated with President Trump focusing on the election he lost 6 years ago in 2020. And that, yes, he lost to Joe Biden, and yes, he wishes he had won, but he didn't. And instead of focusing on that and giving a speech to the American public, a 26-minute speech from the East Room of the White House on that subject, what about preparing them for the struggle ahead that is going to be necessary for any kind of victory claim concerning Iran? Concerning Iran. The Iraq conflict is, thank God, mostly in the past. Michael McCaul, who is a GOP representative from Texas, a former diplomat, he was on Fox News, and he talked about what we need to do to win this war. This is clip 11.
Remember, the military was winning this war against Iran. And by the way, I applaud President Trump, the first one since 1979 to take action against a nuclear Iran. And having said that, our military is winning. We stopped to negotiate a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement. That did not work with this regime. I was not sanguine about that being successful. So now we're going to move forward with Plan A again. The military is going to move in, take out their launch pads, take out their ability to send Shahed drones to hit tankers, the missiles. Same thing, quite frankly, that Ukraine is doing against Russia. We're going to do that against Iran. They're using the same drones as Shahed drones. But we got to knock out these targets inside of Iran to open up the Straits of Hormuz. That has to be the fundamental objective, key objective right now.
Okay, to open the Straits of Hormuz. And if it was opened and reliably opened, would that have an impact on, say, the price of gas or the economic welfare of the United States and our allies and the rest of the civilized world? It probably would. And the truth is that is what needs to be coming our way. And the idea that instead the president would focus on an election from 6 years ago. Maureen Dowd writes in the New York Times, he is willing to undermine and destroy any institution, this is Trump, law, norm, or ideal cherished by Americans in a bonfire of his vanities. As the Times' Peter Baker wrote, she quotes, the deeply unpopular Trump seems in Friday where the president left off, threatening jail time for local election officials who dared disobey the dictates of this administration. She describes Trump's Ahab-like fixation on the election he lost has gone on for 6 years. Time for a change? We'll talk about those changes and building statues and triumphal arcs to commemorate America's greatness, this greatest nation on God's green earth.